A primate rises up in polyresin. Here's your look, new Star Ace, Rise of the Planet of the Apes, Caesar 2.0 Deluxe Version Statue. Rise of the Planet of the Apes is a 2011 American science fiction action film. The film received positive reviews from critics. Rise of the Planet of the Apes was also a commercial success and received numerous awards and nominations, including an Academy Award nomination for Best Visual Effects. In the film, Caesar, a chimpanzee genetically enhanced by scientists, lead an ape uprising against the members of humanity. Star Ace, in collaboration with X+, are proud to present Caesar 2.0. This dynamic 30-centimeter polyresin statue features him at the moment he leads the ape army on San Francisco's Golden Gate Bridge. The deluxe version of the statue comes with a diorama base with debris from the battle incorporated into the design. Rise and add Caesar to your collection today. First, before we begin, I'd like to thank the folks over at Star Ace, who did take the time and provide this early sample of the statue, the brand new statue of Caesar 2.0 from the film Rise of the Planet of the Apes. They did also one better, not only providing the Caesar statue, but the deluxe version of it. So with the deluxe, you get still the same Caesar, but you also get the elaborate display stand that the statue can be poised on top of. Why I brought also the camera a little bit further back than normal, so what I am going to do is I'm going to measure off just how tall Caesar is on his own. If you guys are only interested to get Caesar 2.0, then I'm going to measure the display stand. Then we're going to put the two together. I'm going to measure them collectively. Sounds good? I hope. First, the thing we're going to do is measure off to the very top of Caesar's head. Clickety-click to the top of the chimpanzee's head. You're looking at Caesar standing 11 inches in height. Now, that's just on his own. And that works out to be a statue that's 28 centimeters tall. Then moving our focus over then to the deluxe end of things. This is the display stand, of course, that Caesar's going to be on top of. The display stand alone is about 3.5 inches in height. And it's going to be roughly about, I would say, about 9 centimeters tall. Then to move things further back, at least moving my arms out of the way, we're going to then take Caesar and put him on top of the display stand. Now, Caesar does not attach via magnets or pegs. This is going to be something a little bit that we're going to talk about down the road in this review. And then take the statue, and once it's now together, we're going to measure off together. You're looking at Caesar 2.0 now on top of the statue, impressively standing at about 15 inches in height, or about 38 centimeters tall. Backing up things just a bit, we're actually going to look at the components individually. First, looking at the display stand. Now, this is a polyresin mixed media statue. In other words, it's not just polyresin that they're using other mediums as well. And you really see a lot of that happening when we actually look at the display stand that Caesar can be standing on top of. Picking up right now, what we are seeing here is the fallen remains, the ruins here of the San Francisco Golden Gate Bridge. Sort of see like the side podium pedestal here. It's all been nicely painted in a very nice rusted red. When taking this out of the packaging, you probably already had seen for yourself that some of these iron parts, that little wrought iron bits that stick out the side, they're not actually, they're parts still of polyresin, but they were nicely wrapped carefully in bubble wrap. And you see those on both the sides. Now, this is all polyresin. This is all also polyresin. Flipping this quickly over so you can see the underside of it. We've got the Rise of the Planet of the Apes Caesar Deluxe Version statue. Accompanying with that, you've got a couple of felt feet. 4 in total, off to the somewhat corners, just to prevent scratching on surfaces. I do like the way they've designed the terrain here. You've got, again, all the fallen rock ruins here, concrete and all the other things that would have been making up the bridge. And then scattered amongst that, you also can see there's a few little bullet casings, and then there's also a very large sign that says Highway Patrol. It only says Highway, and then it's hard to kind of make the rest of it, but it's easy still to see that it says Patrol. Now, this part actually seems to be a separate type of material. If I tap it carefully, it feels like it could be potentially plastic. So what they probably have likely done is made this part plastic and then wedged it on top, and probably just taken a few little pieces of the polyresin stone and then just added it over top of it. I think it's nicely painted here. You can see it says California Highway Patrol. And again, they've added a few little scratches and wear and tear to it. It's not metal, granted. Again, it sounds like it's probably likely plastic. And then just off to the side, there's also a helmet, a soldier's helmet. A few straps off to the side, which seem not like to be leather, but actually more of like a nylon material. Again, adding into that mixed media component. There's a few little bit of scuffed marks that they've added to the inside of the helmet, but overall, like, it's a really interesting looking display base. A few little wrought irons that you can actually see embedded into what would have been the concrete of the Golden Gate Bridge. You got a few little interesting cracks there on the back. A nice neat wash of added the darker gray that they've added over top of that as well. Just check out the terrain and surface of that. That's really, really, really cool. The only thing I'm a little worrisome about this is the way that you attach Caesar onto the display stand. I guess we can kind of talk a little bit about that right now before we actually look at Caesar himself. If I pick up the chimpanzee, first of all, he seems solely made of polyresin. The undersides of his feet are, while sculpted nicely, they don't seem an actual anything that's a secure grip that can attach properly onto the display stand. You may have already noticed for yourself when checking out this video that when I put Caesar on top of it, it doesn't actually attach by anything, not by magnets, not by pegs. I can certainly understand why they wouldn't have put posts on the bottom of Caesar's feet. Obviously, this is going to be the same Caesar that's sold standalone if you were just to get the standard 2.0 Caesar. Obviously, they're not going to be putting posts on the bottom of that because Caesar would be unable to stand on his own. But I do think, though, that they probably should have added magnets, embedded magnets into the feet of Caesar, and then embedded magnets actually onto the top of the display base. It's only by just the footing of the chimpanzee alone that prevents the statue from falling over. If I was just slightly to turn this to the side carefully here, you can see that most of his weight and his lean is leaning this way here, as he's certainly pointing forward, probably likely leading his troops into battle against the humans. Because he's leaning forward like this, my concern, though, is that the statue, while isn't it going to be falling right now, I do worry that if it was to be banged at all, likely Caesar would take a tumble falling forward. Again, I do think that they probably should have, as nice as this statue is, and we're going to again look to the details of Caesar in a moment, I do think that they probably should have added magnets to the bottoms of his feet, just so that when you are actually putting him onto the display stand, he's not going to have a difficult time falling right now, and that's, of course, the thing I want to really stress. He doesn't seem like he's unstable. Like there's a little bit of a gap just to the back of his ankle, I guess to the back of his heel, that you could wiggle it back and forth this way, just a little bit. He seems pretty stable, but again, if you are putting him on a shelf or any area where it could be banged, for example, if somebody's running through a room, if you have kids, for example, I would just hope to think that they could have maybe made him a little bit more stable and at least more permanent to the display stand itself. Because it's too good of a statue, would hate to have this falling off. And because he has such a very small footprint space to work with, there's a potential there, if you're not careful and he's put up on a higher shelf, that could be banged at any given point. As for, though, the details on Caesar himself, this is what the statue would look like if you choose for yourself to only get this version of it without the display base. You get a fully realized, fully detailed, and well-painted statue of the likeness of Caesar from Rise of the Planet of the Apes. I do like the gesture, first of all, that they've decided to give him, that even if you do decide you didn't want to get the deluxe version and do away with that altogether, just a freestanding version of Caesar commanding his troops is more than enough, as I do think that Star Ace has done a tremendous job of sculpting and painting this figure. I'm going to spin this around so you can see it from hopefully all the sides, and just the work alone that they sculpted into his fur. I think a testament, first of all, to the artists that designed these and sculpt these statues is when you can look at them and realize that they haven't simply just replicated the same terrain, the same look of fur all the way across the body. Like there's aspects to it that are different very much from the fur that's next to it, the neighboring fur. He seems to have a few little cuts and scratches there also into his body, although he's not drawing blood or anything like that. But his fur seems to be a darker, first of all, shade of the polyresin, and then they've added over top of it a wash of that lighter gray. Getting then a quicker look at his head sculpt here, I do think that the eyes really have a lot of personality going for him. You can tell there's a lot of rage behind those eyes. And as small as they still may be, they have still taken the time to paint not only the iris, but the pupils in there as well. These aren't super dark, the sockets of his areas of his eyes, so at least you can still clearly see all the wrinkles that they've sculpted into his face, the cheek areas around that, the nose, and just above the mouth as well. And as you can see as well, it looks like he is certainly screaming, and his mouth is very obviously open, showing a very full array of teeth, top and bottom. And those have been nicely painted there as well. The gums are getting more of a treatment of a burgundy color, and that same similar burgundy is also painted the inside of the mouth, though you can still very easily see that the tongue seems like a separate, at least painted separate from the rest of the interior of the mouth. It seems like it's one lighter shade, or possibly even more of a purple color than the inside of his mouth, which is a little bit more of an obvious pink. I do like the face sculpt quite a bit. They've added just a little bit of a clear coat over top of the face, so it does look like he's slightly sweating. And you can see as well, he's pointing forward, drawing more of the attention not only to your eyes, but also drawing the attention more to the weight of where the statue is going to be leaning more again forward, like we already discussed earlier at the end of this, earlier into this review. But again, like overall, it's a really, really nice looking statue. You can see like even the musculature. He is sporting quite a nice six-pack for being a chimpanzee after all, but they've actually cut in and nicely sculpted those individual ab muscles, and again added a darker shade just right around here, so it does draw more attention to the fact that he's a very muscular, genetically enhanced ape. Again, I really do think it's a nice looking statue. It's heavy as well, too. So if you do only get the chance and you maybe only have, first of all, the funds available, or maybe even just the space. I mean, let's face facts, too. Like, the statue does take up a lot more space, especially when you do bring in back the display stand, which, again, we can bring back in right now. Granted, yes, we're a little bit further away here, but once again, let's go ahead and take Caesar and just put him back onto the display base. Now, you can obviously twist him this way, and that would ensure a little bit more firmer gripping, at least firmer footing when it comes to displaying him on the shelf. You can also tilt him this way too, but the more you tilt him this way, the less footprint space he actually has to work with. I think it's probably best advised when picking this statue up for yourself, try to have him actually displayed from a side standpoint like this. Now, it's not to say that you obviously can't just simply twist the statue still around, so you still get the full effect and the full work that Star Ace did put into this piece. Again, it's overall a really, really nice looking statue. My only real concern, as already expressed, I'm sure several times already, is just the way they've actually attached onto Caesar, or the lack thereof. I think in a case like this, obviously, metal posts wouldn't have worked, because obviously they're just going to be repackaging, I think in this case, the same Caesar that's sold on his own, the deluxe version. I don't think it's going to get any bit of a different Caesar in this case, but I think they still should have included embedded magnets, putting the magnets in the backs of his heels and putting then metal bits or magnets even in the actual statue's base, just to ensure that if the statue was to get banged, and I know I keep going back to the idea of banging statues, but, you know, as a statue collector, you never really want to start thinking and worrying that statues are going to get banged, but there's always a potential that that could happen. Being that so much of his weight is into his upper body like this, yeah, I do think that they could probably have embedded a better way to permanently plant Caesar on top of a display base if you were to go the route of getting the deluxe version. It's a nice looking statue. Caesar looks fantastic. The sculpting on both his face, the expression that they've given his face, and the gesture that they've given his arm pointing forward like this makes for a very imposing, very impressive, very, very cool looking Caesar to put on your shelf. So if you are looking to get Caesar 2.0 for yourself and want to know the difference in prices, the standard Caesar on his own, 2.0, goes roughly for about $240 in most of the online sites that currently have this guy pre-ordered, with the release date coming this month, August 2022. If you are, however, though, having a little more space to work with and would like to be interested to get the deluxe version, that of course includes the bottom of the Golden Gate Bridge, then the price point for the deluxe version is $355. So about $110 difference between the standard release and the deluxe release. In both the cases, though, both the statues are slated to release this month, August 2022, if you're interested to get either one of them for your collection space. Once again, though, a big thank you to the folks over at Star Ace. They did take the time and provide this sample of the upcoming Caesar 2.0 deluxe version. We can have a look at this video. What do you guys think of the statue? Let me know down below in the comments section. And if you were a fan of the newer Planet of the Apes films, which one was your favorite? Let me know down below in the comments section. If you also enjoyed this video, hit it with a like. If you're loving the content that you're seeing and haven't had yet the chance to do so, then make sure you hit the subscribe button down below and turn on the bell notification. If you also have a little bit of extra time on your hands and you're not going anywhere right now, popping up at the very end of this video will also be a playlist showcasing all the other things I've done for Star Ace over the years, with many more to follow. Even though we have wrapped up right now the review for the Rise of the Planet of the Apes Caesar 2.0 Deluxe version, there's definitely going to be a lot more videos coming your way. And as always, thanks for watching. See you guys next time.